Hello, it's Diane again, and I have another Woodlands journal to show you today, and this journal will be listed in my Etsy shop. This journal was a lot of work, but I really like how it turned out. It started out with just a plain reddish-brown cover with a brown spine, and I didn't really know what to do with the front of it. It's tied with a strip of muslin that is stitched together to make it longer. Well, I tried all kinds of things. I was auditioning pieces and collages and stuff, and then I remembered that I had this stack of papers that I had gotten somewhere. I ordered them by mail before the internet, before I used the internet anyway, from a stamp company. I used to order some stamps from them. But anyway, they came this size, and they're like handmade papers. You can see some ferns embedded in this one. So I remembered about these, and I found one that was kind of greenish, and it had leaves embedded in it. You could see the leaves, and I thought that was perfect. But it's just this wide, so I just Mod Podged it on and folded the ends over. And with the Mod Podge, the brown cover kind of shows through, and you can't really see the shape of the leaves as well, but I really like the way it looks. It has an organic look to it, and it's textured, and it's just really neat. And then I cut this piece out with my Cricut with this cartridge, Winter Woodland. And it's just a tree branch with a pine cone hanging on it. And I cut it out of craft cardstock. And this was a printable owl that I got from... Now I can't remember. I had it in my head and it's gone. I'll link it below. And then this is a mushroom that I cut from a children's nature book. And something I've never done was I used an imitation leather, fake leather on the spine. And I actually found this very soft and supple piece and not too thick at Walmart. And it wasn't hard to wrap it around, because I was afraid it would be too thick to wrap around, but it wasn't. So I'm probably gonna make this video too long and have to divide it up into two, but we'll see. So here's a piece of that ferny paper that I used, and since it's not wide enough, I kind of filled in. So it's a little patchworky. And then I had this brown wood board print that I put down the center. This is just a scrap of cardstock, printed cardstock that I used to make a pocket, and I cut this little squirrel out of a book of Bambi. And there's a coffee dyed tag in there and a library card. And if you saw my other Woodland video of the custom order, you saw the tissue paper or tracing paper pockets that I did with the Ranger Distress inks on the tissue paper, and I really love them. Now the other one, I glued the tissue paper on. I think I glued a little piece of trim here, and then glued the frame to the back. And this one I tried stitching, and I used a different frame. I cut one out that has a little scalloped edge. And then this is just a cutout from a book about gardening for wildlife. Piece of scrapbook paper, and some of the papers I did not coffee dye because I printed out this paper with the trees with lines on it, and I really love that. So there's quite a bit of that in here. There's different designs. I think there's 9 different designs. I don't think I used all 9 of them in this book, but they make really good journaling pages in the book. And so I just cut my scrapbook paper to 8.5 by 11 and put it in my printer. And I use my little Woodland stamps again, and some pieces of fabric for tabs. I'll put the book down so maybe you can see it better. A piece of the Woodland fabric that I have with the animals, and there's a piece of trim stitched up there. Nice stamp. Let you see that one. It's an old Stampin' Up! Stamp. A page from the Edith Holden book, one of her books. There's some fabric, patchwork fabric stitched there, and another piece of the tree, lined paper. There's a cute little owl, another old Stampin' Up! Set, tree. And this is from online. I found it on Google search, and unfortunately my trim covers up that deer, the mama deer's face. I didn't really pay attention when I sewed that trim on. And these mushroom cards came from, I don't know. I had all this information when I did the other video for the other Woodland book. I'll link everything below. It's too late for me to think. There's some trim that I just wrapped front to back and stitched on. This is Ephemera's Vintage Garden Woodland Wings journaling kit. And the pages are smaller than these pages, so I just folded the page in half and used it as the center, and I put a journaling coffee dyed index card in there with a stamp on it. This owl is stitched to patterned paper and a piece of ribbon, and then there's my little froggy stamp. It says time's fun when you're having flies. There's a cute little bunny. I love the way this spread looks. This is just a piece of lined paper. It was kind of cream colored, and I just tore it to give it an organic shape and zigzag stitched following those lines. Just stitched this little scallop punch craft paper on there. This could be used for writing the date or something. And then this is cut from the Bambi book. Another Edith, the other side of the Edith Holden page, and fabric collage with a little rosette. Some stamping here, fabric tab, a little bird stamp. This is a coin envelope, and I just glued on a journaling spot and put this journaling card in there. And it's a tucked spot, so there's another French mushroom behind it. There's a stamped journaling spot there. Here's an old linen, a vintage linen with a butterfly on it, and like in the other book, I cut it out and zigzagged it across the top and let the crocheted trimming hang off the edge of the page. This I also found on Google search, or Google Images, or whatever that's called. And this is French mushrooms that I purchased from another Etsy digital seller. And I made a little book. Here's a second signature. This one has a frog there. Now, I had trouble with my printer making this book, and when I finally got it working again, for some reason it printed some of these pages landscape or portrait instead of landscape, or vice versa, whatever. It did it wrong, and so they ended up small. So I just stitched that on as a pocket, and it's good for journaling there. And there's some couple of trims stitched on there. There's a cute little duck. He belongs on a farm, not in the woods, but he's part of my little woodland animal set, so I used him. This is a little piece of flannel. Another fabric collage. A tiny, tiny, tiny piece of lace was sitting on my table, so I stitched it on there. And again, there was a little scrap of lace when I sewed this piece on. And this is a piece of stamped tracing paper. So I just stitched this little piece of lace on there. Now, I have to confess that this pocket, this page wraps around and is stitched on as a pocket on both sides, and it's covering up a mistake. When it was supposed to be one of these, and I stitched on the tissue paper, but I had cut the tissue or tracing paper a little bit too small, and so one edge of it came out, and I couldn't fix it, so I ended up tearing out the tissue paper. But I wanted to use this paper. I didn't have any more coffee dyed paper that would match this book. So if you look down in there, you'll see the hole that I cut. But it's covered. The tags still slide in there, and that's just a piece of scrapbook paper that just looks tan. And then this is from the Bambi book, and that is from the Bambi book. Here's another of the Ephemera's Vintage Garden pages. This one has a little wolf. Wolf or fox? Looks like a wolf. And there's a cute little deer. And then this is a page from the Bambi book that was blank on the back, so I just left it. You can write on that. Guess it doesn't matter. And this is one of the front pages from the Bambi book, so this part can be used for journaling. Again, a coin pocket with a journaling card in there. Little chipmunk cut from the children's nature book. This one just has a piece of a doily and a piece of fabric. And then the third signature with the tracing paper window has a little bird on a branch. Cute little bunny. There's a squirrel from my fabric. There's a piece of that flannel. And then this is a piece of plaid fabric that I gathered, and I let the end of it hang off. There's a mushroom page. Piece of seam binding and a piece of the yarn. I only stitched it down this far so the rest could just unravel and look fuzzy. And then here's another of the pages that got printed the wrong way, so I did the same thing with this as I did with the Ephemera's Vintage Garden pages. And then this one again is stitched on as a pocket. There's a little piece of the plaid fabric up there. Oh, excuse me. And there's a cute little deer. More of that torn and distressed paper. There's a frog on that page. I think I will get through this all in one video. I love those little birds. And a chipmunk. I love this tree. Oh, I forgot. This paper got cut, so I'm going to stitch something over that. There's a butterfly on an old piece of linen. Isn't that pretty? And this is the edge I cut, so I zigzagged it because this is a ravelly piece of fabric. It's kind of like linen. So I stitched it so it wouldn't unravel. And then the back pocket is cardstock and a little bunny from the Bambi book. And I just used a little frame that I cut with my Cricut. So this is just a Woodlands journal, which will be listed in my Etsy shop, and I will link it below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you pay a visit to my shop. Bye-bye.